Nissan is in the midst of revitalizing their lineup, giving their vehicles much needed technology, better interiors, but also more upscale styling, which really should compete very well with the Subarus, Toyotas, and Hondas of the world. Earlier this year, we had taken a look at the Nissan Rogue, which is most certainly better than the prior generation. But can the same be said for the 2022 Nissan Pathfinder, which is also all new? New styling, new interior, but also when it comes to performance, you now have a 9-speed automatic transmission which replaces the CVT, and that is getting a lot of people excited. Nissan has never really been the consumer's first choice when it comes to going with the three-row crossover, as you have the Honda Pilot, Toyota Highlander, Mazda CX-9, and Subaru Ascent. But today for 2022, this vehicle right here has received some significant improvements and has now become a vehicle that should certainly be on your radar. So in this video, we're going to take a good long look at the 2022 Nissan Pathfinder, see how it compares to other vehicles in its segment, and also see why you should no longer overlook what Nissan is offering here with this three-row crossover. Now before I get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Boch Nissan in Norwood, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Nissan inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. Nissan has always been a higher volume seller, but out of the larger Japanese brands, they seem to find themselves on the receiving end of criticism, whether it's due to an outdated design, a lack of modern technology, or most of the time it's because of the driving dynamics and the CVT transmission. If there's any indication that Nissan has listened to buyers, the 2022 Pathfinder should give people a lot of optimism for both the present and future, as for the first time in years, a vehicle not sporting the GTR badge has caused quite the stir in the consumer markets. A lot has changed for this three-row crossover, not only cosmetically, but also when it comes to the mechanical and technological aspects to give Nissan a solid competitor in a very hot segment. Starting off with pricing, our model for this review is an SV with the optional four-wheel drive system, which comes in at $38,100, and this will be the mid-level trim in the lineup, providing a good amount of standard features. Coming as a surprise to some, despite the exterior being all new and sleek, Nissan is using the exact same platform from last generation's Pathfinder. And remarkably, they found a way to improve this crossover in almost every way, which isn't something we normally see from brands that use older underpinnings for new models. As expected, dimensions go relatively unchanged compared to last year, but fall right in line with its closest rivals. For off-road capability, the Pathfinder will have 7 inches of ground clearance, which should be enough to take on snow-covered roadways and dirt roads. But more likely than not, this crossover will only be seeing the pavement. Getting into the road presence for the 2022 model, Nissan has taken a new approach to give the Pathfinder more of a rugged appearance, whether it's fully capable to tackle the off-road or not. And consumers are taking notice, as it looks aggressive but streamlined as well. It would be an understatement to suggest that the outgoing model was outdated in design. But this time around, the Pathfinder has been modernized, and that's reflected with the headlight housings, and also the front fascia in general, that removes the boxier and squared-off aesthetics the Pathfinder was known for in the past. Nissan's signature V-motion front grille, bringing chrome and gloss black accents, brings out some of the classier aspects of this crossover. And with the sharper body lines for the bumper, the Pathfinder has been sculpted to be an eye-catcher on the road. Moving over to the side profile, the SV will be sitting on 18-inch silver-painted aluminum wheels, with 20s being available for the SL and Platinum. For those wondering, this Pathfinder had just been delivered, so the center caps hadn't yet been installed. Ride quality and comfort is what you'd expect for a three-row crossover of this size, and we'll get into the driving dynamics later on. You'll have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, The styling resembles what you'd expect from European brands, as the entire rear fascia has smoother body lines and has also been rounded. With the taillights wrapping around the rear third of this crossover, the Pathfinder now looks sleeker from this angle. And following some of the latest trends in the automotive world, the nameplate is spelled out across the liftgate for an upscale appearance. However, unlike some of the newer 3-row SUVs, Nissan is trying to balance a durable and classy design, as plastic cladding will outline the rear bumper and wheel wells to insinuate that the Pathfinder is capable of taking on anything you throw at it. Under the hood, the Nissan Pathfinder for 2022 is powered by the same 3.5-liter V6 engine from last generation, which produces 284 horsepower and 259 pound-feet of torque. But getting everyone excited is the 9-speed automatic transmission that replaces the CVT. Just on paper alone, everyone knows performance and accelerations will be smoother and far more enjoyable. But this change also follows the path of some Japanese rivals who've moved away from CVTs to give buyers a traditional automatic. As mentioned earlier, the model we have is equipped with 4-wheel drive, which will be an additional $1,900 to the price tag. But for those who live in warmer climates, the Pathfinder does come standard with 2-wheel drive. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 21 miles per gallon in the city and 27 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, you're greeted by heated cloth seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side being 10-way power adjustable, whereas passengers will have to manually find their ideal seating position. If you're familiar with Nissan's available options, you'll probably recognize that this model has the SV Premium package to give owners a panoramic moonroof, second-row fold-down captain's chairs, and a power liftgate. While you may not receive a full digital gauge cluster or a bigger head unit, this package does provide the essentials to make daily driving more accommodating. In front of you, between the analog gauges, you will have a digital information display, which has been upgraded from last generation. Resolution and quality has improved substantially, and the amount of information and features showcased from this screen is certainly on par with other crossovers in this segment. Then moving over to the infotainment system, you will have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. But to receive the upgraded 13-speaker Bose sound system and 9-inch touchscreen, you will have to opt for the SL and the SL Premium package. While the user interface isn't the most in-depth, you can easily get to different menus thanks to the quick access buttons found beneath the screen. And better yet, you will have physical dials for the volume and tuning. From a user-friendly aspect, lagging is kept to a minimum, and the fact that there is a limited amount of embedded features, you should have no problem using this screen while driving. Of course, you will have a rear backup camera with trajectory to help park your Pathfinder. Below, you'll find the buttons and dials for your 3-zone climate control, front and rear defrosters, 3-level heated seats, and AC. Then beneath that, there'll be a cubby for a smartphone, to go along with a 12-volt outlet and a USB-C and USB input. For the center console, as we saw with the Nissan Rogue, a new gear shifter for 2022 will highlight the changes for this portion of the front seating area, as it's a cleaner design compared to prior model years. It's also here where your drive mode selector will be found, to help you take on different terrain, or if you're feeling the need for speed, you can select Sport mode for a more aggressive driving experience. Rounding out the front seating area, the center storage compartment will easily have enough room to fit smaller items and a smartphone. Now for passengers in the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side, and I have plenty of legroom to work with here. Now, of course, I am around the height of 5'5", but I think if you're on the height of 5'9", possibly 5'10", you could sit back here pretty comfortably because the roofline is pretty high and there's plenty of room here. Now, one thing to note is, just like most vehicles in this segment, the second row seats do slide forwards and backwards, and that's going to be crucial for people in the third row because we're going to find out in a few minutes that the third row might be a bit tight, but if these seats are slid a bit forwards, they might be able to sit back there pretty comfortably. Now, of course, since we do have captain chairs, we do not have a middle seat, but instead we do have a center console with 2 cup holders and also a storage compartment. And what I like with this vehicle, and some people are going to disagree because it's going to be a little difficult to keep clean, is the piano gloss black, which I think actually makes this interior look a little nicer. Of course, again, it's going to be a bit of a pain to clean as I have that issue with my car, but I just think that when it comes to interior design, it looks pretty nice. Then on the driver's side, I adjusted the seat to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I still have a good amount of leg to work with here with this seat adjusted all the way forwards. However, the comfort continues on because you can slide it back, but you can recline too. And you will have an armrest. So on a longer drive, you can just sit back, relax, enjoy the ride, and just be overall comfortable. Also back here, you will have climate control to go along with the buttons that will control airflow, a USB and USB-C input, and as I said before, you will have 2 cup holders to round out the second row seating area. Now for passengers in the third row, obviously it's not going to be the most spacious for anyone over the height of 5 feet. Now I'm around 5'5", and I'm already squished, but of course this is adjusted all the way back. If I think about somebody being around the height of 4.5 feet, like a kid, smaller kids, I think you could certainly do that. There's enough room back here where the second row seats can slide forwards and people in the third row can be nice and comfortable. Also, what's interesting too is that there's enough shoulder room back here where you can have a third seat. Obviously, I don't think I'll be able to fit a third kid back here. I think that'd be pretty tight, but certainly keep that in mind. There's at least that option and that's available to you. But for me, I think you just want to have 6 people in this vehicle overall. Also back here on either side of the third row seating area, you do have 2 cup holders on both sides, giving you 4 cup holders overall. Now coming around to the back, you're going to receive a power liftgate on the premium package. And inside you're going to find right around 16.5 cubic feet of room behind the third row seats, which is a little bit better than what we found in the Mazda CX-9. Now you do have a higher roofline, so you can stack up more items than in the Mazda. And eyeing this, I do think I'd be able to fit both my camera bags, a tripod, and my gimbal box. But of course, usually with 3-row crossovers of this size, you're not going to have the most practicality. It's not going to be the most conducive if you do have all 3 rows up. But with the third row seats down, you're looking at right around 45 cubic feet. So if you only need the second row seats up and you'll have maybe 2 kids in the vehicle with you, this is certainly practical. You can have all your groceries back here. Maybe if you are going on a road trip with the family, you can fit more than 4 or 5 bags of luggage. So this vehicle is certainly practical in that aspect. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 80.5 cubic feet overall, which is really great. Obviously, it's not going to be a class leader, but it's certainly conducive if you are moving items, maybe you're moving furniture, moving to your first ever apartment. So this vehicle is definitely going to provide that versatility and utility that you're looking for. Then beneath the floor mat, you will find an additional storage compartment for smaller items, such as maybe electronics or even camera gear. I think there's enough room where I could fit a couple small cameras. And that way, if you are going to the mountains or skiing and snowboarding and you have electronics with you, you can leave them out of sight, and that way people won't be able to peek in and steal what you have. And then once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. So as we get started here on this test drive for the 2022 Nissan Pathfinder, I have already spent a few hours with this vehicle, and it's really remarkable what Nissan has done aesthetically. Not only does it look good, it looks really good in fact, but also the interior is so much better than last generation, and yet last generation and this generation are built on the exact same platform. It's very difficult to find brands that can do that, that can make a vehicle so much better and still be built on the same platform. So I'm really interested in seeing how the 9-speed pairs up with this V6, because I have a good feeling that this vehicle right here is going to perform quite well. The fact that we don't have a CVT anymore just automatically makes this vehicle so much better, but also now on par with the Honda Pilot, with the Toyota Highlander, with the Mazda CX-9. And it just pairs up very nicely, in fact. But also what's really intriguing to me about this vehicle is just how quiet it is. I mean, the cabin, now this is an SV with the premium package. This is not a top trim vehicle at all. And yet it feels really refined. It feels quiet in here. And the fit and finish, more importantly, is pretty impressive. What's also standing out too is just how massive the windshield is. You have very small A-pillars, your side mirrors are placed in a good spot, and also you can see what's behind you. There's a lot of vision to work with. Even when you look over your right shoulder, you can see everything right there. So from a visibility standpoint, what you have here inside the cabin of a Nissan Pathfinder, you have a lot of vision to work with. It's very safe. But also, of course, you have that safety equipment to really give you that peace of mind when you are driving and taking your family to school or you're going on a road trip. Now, getting into the interior layout for the Pathfinder while you're driving, what really stands out to me is how close the infotainment system is to you. So everything is within arm's reach, but also you have physical buttons just beneath the screen and physical dials. Then of course for the dashboard layout, it's very cleanly designed. And even though a lot of people don't like the gloss black trim, I think it certainly adds some classiness to this crossover. Of course, it will be a pain to clean, but when it is clean, it looks pretty good. Also, you have a nice cubby for a smartphone, and of course, I love the wide center console. I like having this vehicle feel wide too. The CX-9, which the Pathfinder would go up against, feels more like a small crossover. It certainly feels like a compact crossover than anything else, whereas this truly feels like a mid-size 3-row. And as we've already demonstrated with the second row and third row, it's more spacious too. You have a lot more headroom. And really, I think this is certainly on par with the Subaru Ascent, and maybe even, and this would be a bit of a stretch here, possibly a Ford Explorer as well. At highway speeds, you really don't hear a lot of road noise at all. It's very quiet in here. Now, of course, we do have the 18-inch alloy wheels, so that could be playing a factor, could be playing a role here in the ride comfort and quality, but this is pretty nice. They really smooth this vehicle out to the point where it now feels very much like its closest competitors. They definitely bridge the gap, because you would look at the Pathfinder even last year and say, you know what, I could get a lot more for maybe a Hyundai or a Kia and possibly a Subaru Ascent. I think the Subaru Ascent is a bit outdated when it comes to technology and the layout, but if you are seriously looking at a Subaru Ascent, the Pathfinder should now be on your radar. It should now be a vehicle that you take a good long look at, because I gotta be honest, now the fact you have a 9-speed automatic, you have up-to-date technology, depending on what trim you go with, because if you go with the Platinum, you get a full digital gauge cluster, you get a bigger infotainment system. But I gotta be honest, I don't think I'm really feeling like I'm missing out on anything by going with the SV Premium for this review. But also when you're looking at the SV trim, they seem to be easier to obtain right now with the car shortage. So if you're looking to buy a 3-row crossover right now, the Pathfinder is certainly going to be that vehicle that could certainly appeal to you. Now, steering input is pretty light. It is direct though, and it just fits the driving dynamics of this crossover overall, because you don't really have aggressive steering, you don't have aggressive suspension either, and nor do you have a really powerful engine under the hood. But to me, this is a great daily driver. It's a crossover that is certainly family friendly and also practical as well. So it's taking on these horrible New England roads quite well. And really, overall, what this crossover represents is a great daily driver. Nissan really focused on the daily driving aspects and the fact that you're going to be commuting in this vehicle Monday through Friday, taking your kids to school or soccer practice. And really, you can notice that even with the smaller details, such as the leather-wrapped steering wheel, which feels really good in the hands for a lower trim vehicle, but also the materials they used. Obviously, this is not an SL or Platinum, but there is somewhat soft touch padding found throughout, especially on the door rest and the center armrest. And it just feels really high quality in here. And of course, at around $41,000 for a lower trim, you're not really expecting to receive all the bells and whistles. But compared to other vehicles in this market and segment, it is most certainly on par. But also when it comes to performance as well, I think it's sufficient enough where you can get on the highway pretty quickly, and you don't really feel like this vehicle is underpowered. So really what Nissan has done here is that they finally made a vehicle that feels the part, that it is a true 3-row crossover that also is leaning more towards an entry-level luxury side, because this is a small taste of what we're going to experience in the Infiniti QX60. And really, if you go with the SL, you'll get that leather seats, and then with a Platinum, you'll go with a full digital gauge cluster, and now you have really a vehicle that at around $55,000, $60,000, you now have a vehicle that is certainly comfortable, plush, but also modern as well. And even though this is an SV, I think they've done quite a good job. So since we are going on this tight road here, I put it in sport mode to see what the steering is like. And certainly it does come to life. Very minimal body roll here. And the steering does provide a good amount of feedback. Obviously, it's not aggressive, it's not sporty in any sense, but it will give you a lot of confidence in the corners if you are the type of person that tends to drive a little faster than the speed limit. Once again, getting on the brake, and it comes right to a stop without really a lot of force on that brake pedal. So it feels very well refined, as I normally say with these newer vehicles. It just feels nice in here. It feels classy, first and foremost, because you have a nice combination of digital and analog, but also the interior layout to me is nicer as well. And even though people are going to complain about the piano black, I still think it adds a nice classy touch. But I do notice though that in sport mode, that's when the V6 does come to life a bit. You get aggressive gear shifts and it becomes a bit more engaging to drive. But honestly, for most drivers who are going to be buying this vehicle, I think comfort is more than enough, because you want to have that softer suspension. You want to just enjoy the driving experience, but also, of course, this vehicle is going to be meant for you and your family, and I think it certainly does the job for sure. So wrapping up this test drive, has Nissan finally created a product that can now seriously go up against its closest rivals? And I think now more than ever, absolutely. I felt that way with the Nissan Rogue as well, although I'd love to see the Rogue get the 9-speed automatic sourced by ZF. But this feels a lot better than last generation for sure. It's modernized, the exterior looks so much better, but also it's a comfortable vehicle too. It's one where you can certainly drive on a daily basis and not get tired of it. And even in SV form, I think this is enough. Of course, you can always go with leather with the SL and then the Platinum, but I think when you're looking at spending around $41,000, the Pathfinder now has found its place in this segment, I think. I think Nissan has finally done this vehicle justice, especially in 2021. And it's been modernized enough where buyers who are looking to purchase a 3-row crossover want to have technology, they can certainly do so. And they have that at their disposal. Of course, with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, you're not going to miss the onboard navigation system. You're not going to miss the bigger infotainment system. And also, of course, if you don't really need to have a digital gauge cluster, I think the SV with the premium package is going to give you everything you're looking for. More importantly, I think Nissan hit the nail on the head with this crossover. It just feels all around better, despite the fact that it is built on the exact same platform as last generation. But it seems as though it's found the right balance now. It has enough technology, it has enough comfort, and also the performance is so much better now that you have that 9-speed automatic. So I do think that if you are looking at buying a 3-row crossover, take a look at the Nissan Pathfinder, and that's something you would never really say before, but I think now they have a product that is certainly worth taking a look at, experiencing, test driving, but also I would recommend going with an SL or the Platinum if you can. But if you are on a stricter budget, I think the SV with the premium package is just enough where you get a good amount of technology, good amount of performance, and also, more importantly, a good amount of comfort at a decent price. So in closing, I think what we can conclude here is that Nissan has closed the gap between them and their closest rivals, like the Subaru Ascent, Toyota Highlander, and Mazda CX-9. Of course, we only featured an SV trim with the premium package, but I do think that at around $41,000, it provides just enough where you don't feel like you're missing out on anything. Of course, we don't have the full digital gauge cluster, we don't have the bigger infotainment system, and we don't have the wireless phone charging pad. But if you're looking for a vehicle that's going to give you comfort and I still think a modernized interior, then the Pathfinder today for 2022 is certainly going to be a vehicle vehicle that should be on your list of considerations. Also, when it comes to interior space, I feel like this vehicle is much bigger than the Mazda CX-9 I recently featured, especially when it comes to headroom, but also even the third row seats, because when you slide those second row seats forward, I do think smaller kids can sit back there pretty comfortably. Also, even though this is an SV trim, there is soft touch padding in the right places, so they definitely focused on interior comfort, which is really great to see. Then, of course, with the removal of the CVT, and now we have a 9-speed automatic, this vehicle performs a lot better as well. So overall, what I think that Nissan has done here is that they've really given this vehicle a good upgrade, where you now have the technology that you expect to see in this market. Of course, you will have to go with the SL or Platinum, but if you want to have comfort, you want to have a nice, enjoyable driving experience, and also a vehicle that's perfect for you and your family, then I think what Nissan has done for 2022 is significant, and now a vehicle worth taking a look at in this price range. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.